Just like we drew it up, baby.
Yeah, that was smooth. Welcome. We're trying something new here. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Del Valley Sports Pod. This is episode number 45. And that delayed entry right there was because we're trying something new because we're going live on YouTube for the first time. So, yeah, we're working out kinks on the fly. But Dan, good to be back with you. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been busy, but the busyness is almost over. About to be off for a while. Celebrate Pat. Shout out producer Pat and his wife Natalie. Have a little wedding celebration. By the way, Natalie's family in town. She's from Ukraine. They're going to the Phils tonight. Introducing the family to the Fighting Phils against the Marlins at the bank.
Heck yeah.
For him.
Yeah, the Phillies have been something. The Eagles have also been something. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the little bit of preseason football we had last Friday? Good to see the Birds back on the field.
Send it.
So we were talking briefly before we started. It's the first preseason game, and there's not too much to glean from it because we got second and third stringers playing against second and third stringers. But it was good to see Midnight Green back on the field.
Yeah.
And we saw some good things. I didn't see anything that was alarming other than Jake Elliott missing a couple kicks.
Yeah, pretty much.
Missed an extra point and a field goal. Redeemed himself at the very end. If we want to start at the end and work backwards. For those of you that didn't see the game, Jake Elliott doinked one with like 13 seconds left. Ravens get the ball back. Defense strip sacks him. They get the ball back. The Eagles do with 5 seconds left at their opposing 30. Jake Elliott redemption. They win 16-13, which is a big deal against the Ravens because they love winning preseason football games.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I wasn't planning to talk about this at all, but when you just said Ravens, and I knew it was against the Ravens, it just brought back this wild memory when I was a young kid. I don't know if you remember this because it was a preseason game. So, but back when I was a kid, oh man, I'd have to look it up to figure out what year it was. I feel like I was probably 12-ish at the most. My dad was taking me to, it might have been my first Eagles game at the time. It was a preseason game. I'm almost 100% certain it was against the Ravens. We pull up to the game and they end up canceling the game last minute because something about the turf, like the turf was a little bit misaligned and they called it a safety hazard. They couldn't fix it in time, so they canceled the game. I was so excited to go watch the Eagles. They canceled the game because the turf. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
I have. Only once, though. It was the Hall of Fame game in 2014, 2015, maybe. They had the game on Saturday after or maybe it was Sunday, but it was after the Hall of Fame ceremony. So the field was covered with the big plastic mats to put chairs on and such for the whole ceremony, which I believe took place on Friday or Saturday. Game was played Sunday. Whatever paint that they used on the field prior to putting all this matting down became like rock hard underneath the artificial surface to the point where it was like concrete. They were trying to scrape it off, use chemicals to get all of this paint off. They couldn't. They had to cancel the game because the paint ended up screwing up the field.
It's horrible.
So that's the only time I've ever heard of that being such a thing, other than you always hear the stories about how bad it was at the link back in the day where it was basically just carpet over concrete.
At the link?
At the
vet. The vet. So that's what I just looked up. It was 2001. What an awful era of stadiums. If we may.
Three Rivers, the Coliseum.
All of them. Like so many places had those stadiums that was that the first era of turf fields? Was that the oh my gosh, this turf stuff is awesome and let's multi-purpose this thing? Was that the first big era of it?
I would say so. I don't know offhand, but I got to think there were at least 4 of those stadiums that were built and multi-purpose, AstroTurf. Yeah, let's just play all these games on it here and never have to take care of the grass. Well, you kind of have to either redo the AstroTurf or put money and things into keeping it well. And clearly they didn't. So that makes sense that it was at the vet.
Yeah, it was at the vet. Also, by the way, I'm pretty sure I don't know if you're familiar with this stadium at all, and I think it was part of that era. I'm pretty sure growing up, the Toronto, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember seeing it like video games and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure Toronto Blue Jays had a field that was like all turf, and it only had, I think, dirt in the at the base, like around each base. The
Yes.
ugliest field you could ever see in your life.
That was gross.
Horrific.
Now, I'm not familiar with the Rogers Center where they play currently. All I do know is there's a hotel in center field, which is a sight I would love to see. I'd love to be in a hotel room. I'd just love to be up in a hotel room lounging, watching a professional baseball game.
There's a couple bucket list items there, but
yeah, I don't know if they have one-way mirrors or not. That's all I have to say about that.
That's all we have to say about that. But yeah, the Birds were back out there. I'm pretty sure. And the other thing is Jake Elliott missed an extra point, I think, earlier on in the game. I believe between the extra point and the first 50-yard field goal attempt, I believe one went wide left, the other one wide right, and then the game winner at the very, very end, straight down the middle, baby, like butter. Like butter.
So we were told that a lot of the starters were going to play. And that was true on one side of the ball. The defense, 8 of the 11 starters played. Offense, barely anybody played.
Nice. They know what they're doing when they say that. They know we.
Yeah, of course. Well, Sirianni was like, if we heard Sirianni say, "Yeah, we're going to have starters playing," well, the defensive starters played, not the offensive starters. So pretty much everybody on the defense who isn't named Brandon Graham and Darius Slay, all the old heads, the veterans did not play, but the young guys did. And Jalix Hunt, the linebacker, I believe they took in the 3rd round. He looked okay. Quinyon Mitchell certainly looks like he belongs in the NFL. I want to go back and watch the film. I think we have to renew our NFL Plus subscription so we can go back on Monday nights and watch film again. Man, I'm looking forward to that.
The all 22, man. All the all 22 does is it makes you devalue running backs and value linemen. That's what I learned last year. Wow, running backs, who cares? Linemen are awesome.
It's all about the linemen. The big uglies right up the middle. Speaking of running backs, Will Shipley, another rookie, he looked pretty good. He's not going to challenge Saquon, but for a backup running back, looks pretty good.
Well, he's always been, even with Clemson, I'm not a big college guy, but he's always been a big receiving running back, right? That's kind of been his shtick.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, that could be fun.
One thing I didn't think about, but because Clemson had such a down year last year, I think Will Shipley was devalued as a player because the team just wasn't that good. If he had been playing on the Trevor Lawrence era Clemson teams, he probably would have gotten a lot more run and notoriety pre-draft, but just because Clemson was so bad last year, he probably slipped a little bit further than he would have otherwise.
It makes you, we don't have the time for it now, but it makes me want to go back and see where I don't know, top 15 running backs, maybe even top 20 in the league today where they were drafted. And yeah, I don't know. It's a curious thing because running backs are so weird and their shelf life can be so short as well. But.
You know what I'm thinking though? Of all the positions, I feel like running back is the one where you get what you pay for by taking them high. Saquon, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs was a 1st-round pick. Like a lot of the running backs that are worth their salt right now have been taken in the 1st round.
Well, when was McCaffrey drafted? That's what I'm trying to look up.
I'm pretty sure he was definitely 1st round. I feel like he was top 10 overall. I mean, he was so highly touted. I could be wrong. If you want to look this up, go for it.
And he had like the family pedigree a little bit too, which probably worked in his favor.
Yeah, his dad, Ed, played in the NFL.
Ed. Oh, that's Ed's son's. Ed's son's playing football now.
Ed's kid's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Oh, come on. Get him in the... It's Ed. Come on. 8th overall in the 2017 draft.
I was going to say, I thought he was top 10.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, and I feel like running backs are drafted for that, especially these days. They're drafted to kind of play now and for that first initial rookie contract. It's kind of a player. I mean, These days in football, I feel like the expectation, the bar is pretty high for anyone drafting the first round to play now. But running backs, I think it's more than that because I think we're not even necessarily planning on keeping you beyond your rookie contract. We're gonna ride you out for 4 years pretty immediately, or however many it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. Like, I'm pretty sure Mark Ingram, Heisman Trophy winner, was top 10 overall.
Wow.
You get what you pay for. And it's weird because the Eagles are the outlier here, where they never take a running back early. And I think we, thinking about that, don't realize that the rest of the league doesn't do that. Everyone else values running backs pretty highly in the draft. Like Bijan Robinson last year for the Falcons, I think he went 5th overall. And
yeah, something like that. I have to look it up.
Maybe it wasn't 5th, but he definitely went in the first round.
He was early. He was certainly early.
That's a good exercise. Might have to look into that and get the average draft position of the starting running backs of all 32 teams.
I'm dying now to know the Eagles running back. I'm gonna word this in the weirdest way possible, but the Eagles running back who was drafted the highest in franchise history. I bet you Westbrook was like a 3rd round.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can't remember the last time they took one in the 1st round. I think we talked about this probably 6 months ago. I think this is ringing a bell as a conversation we've had before.
Turns out if you just Google Westbrook, it's the first Westbrook that comes up is not Brian. Whatever.
Is Russell Westbrook? Probably.
Russell. Whatever.
Oh, speaking of players, this is episode number 45. And over the past few weeks, months, episodes, I've been going for a deep cut, a bust out, if you will. But I'm changing my course today because of our fighting Phils. And we need this guy to carry the load the rest of the season. That's number 45. Your best pitcher on the Philadelphia Phillies, Zach Wheeler.
Wheeling and dealing, baby. Happy birthday, Wheels.
Is his birthday today?
No, I don't know why I said that.
It's just a Wheeler episode.
It was a Wheeler. No, okay. Here's why I said that. That was weird because I didn't think through any of that. The other day, it was a Wheeler's birthday, and I was like, I think I was at work or something like that, and I couldn't pay attention enough to know which Wheeler they were talking about because I was working, but I heard them saying something about happy birthday Wheels, but I didn't know if they were talking about Zach Wheeler because I don't think they normally call Zach Wheeler Wheels. I thought maybe they were talking about Wheels, the former commentator Wheels.
Yes, whose name is escaping me right now.
Me too. It's so bad.
But you know who I think they might have been talking about? Pete Wheeler. You know who that guy is?
Fast.
Mr. Longface.
Dude, if you just put the ball in play, you're good to go with that.
Pretty much. God, I loved that game. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, that's Backyard Baseball circa 2001. One of the greatest computer games ever.
Chris Wheeler. August 9th, 1945. So I think that's our guy. That's weird. I'm sorry. I just read it was like, happy birthday. Triggered something in me. By the way, Brian, that was weird. Tired brain. By the way,
I know how you feel.
Brian Westbrook, 3rd round. Did nail that at least.
There you go.
So 50-50.
All right. So on the Phillies, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot else to talk about the Eagles other than they have joint practice with the Patriots this week. Well, actually just today because they have a game on Thursday against them. So they're not going to practice tomorrow. Normally they have multiple joint practices, but they're playing the Browns, who they typically have joint practice against this year in the regular season. So they're not having joint practice with them. So just one joint practice. Doubtful. A lot of the starters are going to play this week. I'm hoping, and kind of what I'm hearing is they might play more next week as the third and final game because it's at home.
Interesting. Because I feel like normally they never play the last game. Just the rest. But you're thinking because it's the home field?
Yeah. It'll be their only home preseason game. And they have a little bit of a layoff. I think it's 2 weeks from their last preseason game to the first game in Brazil. So
I completely forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it goes Friday to Friday, if I'm not
Is
mistaken.
that going to be a weird time for us?
No, No, it's going to be at 8:00 Friday night, I believe.
Okay. 8 p.m.
Yes.
That's electric, dude. A Friday, 8 p.m. week
Feels
one
like high school
game.
football again.
That is awesome. I am so down, dude. Plus, you know that stadium is going to just be packed to the gills with at least 3 million people.
Oh, no question. Yeah. So the Eagles, their preseason schedule, they play Thursday against the Patriots. They play next Friday. I don't remember who, but they play next Friday at home, and then they have 2 weeks off until September 6th, first Friday of the NFL season, where they play down in Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo.
Not Sao Paulo,
Antonio. And we're going to take it down to Sao Paulo with Sao Paulo Antonio down here, Sal.
Let's go to Sao Paulo, Antonio, down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So that would be a good send for him on a weekly.
He better be there.
Assignment.
Listen, two things that come to mind. One, is this just like social media and media in general, or are there more fights in training camp between NFL teams that I can ever remember there being?
I
think it's over covering it?
No, I think it's just because everybody has a phone everywhere now, and everything that gets taped is immediately on our phones. And I would say maybe this year is an outlier. I don't remember seeing a bunch of people taking off helmets and swinging at each other.
It's every day. It seems like I'm hearing a story about a fight. I haven't heard any about the Eagles, but
well, there was a couple of years ago where Aaron Donald was he took off a helmet and was bashing somebody in an open practice, and they were like, he might.
Was that friendly fire? Was that one of those team practices?
It was one of the joint practices. Yeah, that's another thing that happens is
right
before 4 to 5 years ago, like before it was really like right before COVID was when teams really started doing these regular joint practices. And so now you are playing game type atmosphere in practice against another team. It's not your own team. Where like Mike Golick said he used to get in scraps all the time against his fellow Eagles players. But yeah, friendly fire, you're not going to beat the hell out of your own teammate with a helmet.
I don't know. The New York Giants seem to be trying to beat each other up pretty good, which is awesome to see, obviously. That like rookie wide receiver, Malik, I don't know, but he keeps
Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, he keeps getting into a fight with some cornerback. It's hilarious. Anytime the Giants do something stupid, it really does bring a little bit of maybe I hate them more than I think I do, or I just like when they have pain and pathetic drama. It's just ridiculous. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassment.
You love seeing every division rival with an awful thing happen to them.
Dallas right now.
Yeah. Jerry Jones doesn't know how to shut his yap.
He's got both of his feet in his mouth and he's still talking nonsense. It's crazy. It's crazy. Who
that
gave
man
the microphone?
I was listening to what he said the other day, and I'm like, what did he even say? It's kind of like Nick Sirianni. He can talk for a half hour and not say a goddamn thing. Because he's talking out both sides of his mouth.
It's not. Don't say that, though. It's not like Nick Sirianni, though, because I think it's different because I think Jerry Jones is just like brain dead. I think he's just like an old man. And I wouldn't normally. I hate Jerry Jones. I think he's pretty much a scumbag. I also saw like a month ago that he's like suing his daughter for saying that she's his daughter because she said she wasn't going to do that. So just he's just a scumbag, not a fan of Jerry Jones. And I think that, but he has all the money and power. So there's nothing that they can really do about it. It's crazy. It's crazy. And CeeDee Lamb and the rest of the guys just like play for this scumbag. Like they just, it's crazy.
He's the judge, jury, and executioner of the Dallas Cowboys. And as long as he is so, they're going to be mediocre. And I love every second of it.
And guess what? When he's not anymore, it's just going to be it's going to be the son, probably.
It's going to be Steven Jones.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's pathetic.
That truck's rolling down the road, burning on fire. Let's go.
I know, right?
All right, let's finally get to the Phillies here because they have been disappointing, to say the least. So I have some numbers here. Since the last time we talked, which was 3 weeks ago. They are 6-13.
Whew.
They are. Sorry, I literally just had it here, but now it's all gone. They're not doing well in August. They are out of the first place in the MLB for the first time since July or June, excuse me. They were in first place in the MLB as far as record goes for almost 2 months.
Which is the other side of that, if we're being fair. I mean, as much as that's like part of the negatives here, the positive side is that it's pretty wild that they are in first place for what you said, 2.5 months.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Yeah, we have to take this all with a grain of salt because it's kind of like the Eagles last year where they went 10-1. And we were like, oh, they're the best team ever. And then it collapsed. But it only kept going downhill. I'm not firing the panic button. I'm getting close. This homestand is going to determine how a lot of us feel because they're going up against the Marlins and the Nationals for 6 games. Mm-hmm. They should at least get 3-3. I would hope 4-2. 5-1 or a full 6-game sweep would be awesome.
You got to give me 4-2. Both of these teams' pitching is not good, and their bullpens are TRBL.
Yeah, I would say if they don't at least win the 6-game set that they have at home, they would probably be considered a failure by all of our standards. But here we go. They were 62-34 at the All-Star break, 7-15 since. The Trey Turner, for example, was at one point batting 354, is now batting 301. Bryce Harper, before his last few games, was batting at 157 in July. He's starting to turn it around, but they have a lot of question marks now that didn't appear to be so early on in the season. And I want to get your opinion as to what's the most important for them to figure out.
Man, I think that it's a little bit of everything. At least at the beginning of this losing streak, it was wild how ice cold the bats were. But if you're forcing me to pick one thing, the pitching, I don't know. I think the pitching has been really consistent and really reliable throughout the whole year. And I just think it's so hard to outdig a hole by just like hitting the hell out of the ball. Like that's just really, really difficult to sustain. And you know, I know it's just Ty Walker, say what you will, but I know it's just like Ranger Suarez is out still. You got Nola and Wheeler, but you know, now you're starting to see Phillips in the rotation every week. And what's his name? Abel. I mean, these guys, you know, these guys aren't necessarily the studs we're used to seeing. Phillips has done a fine job, but you kind of maybe had the feeling that it was going to catch up with him a little bit at some point, especially on this long away stretch here. They're facing some pretty good teams, some pretty big bats.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I feel like Junior Marte is this year's Dylan Covey. Like, why is he here? What is the point? Because he can't even eat up innings when it's a blowout because he can't get through it.
Yeah,
he stinks, dude. I'm sorry, but I'll say it.
He hasn't proven anything that he's a worthwhile person to keep in the back end of the bullpen. I'm looking at their current pitching roster. I don't even see Marte on here. He might have gotten.
Did they just demote him? Okay.
I see a Max Lazar on here, who I'm not familiar with, so he might have been swapped for Marte, which is fine.
By the way, just to say, Gregory Soto, who we traded to Baltimore, the poor guy has been, oh my gosh, awful
really?
For them. So no remorse there, but he's been really bad.
I have not kept up with Dominguez or Soto, other than I remember Dominguez's first outing. Did you see what happened?
I can't remember. I feel like I did watch it, but I can't remember because I'm rooting for him. Sir Anthony, man, I really like Sir Anthony. But what happened?
We would not have gotten to the World Series if it weren't for him in 2022. He had a fantastic postseason.
Incredible. All of it, honestly, like all of his postseason stats ever are, if you look them up, they're outstanding, like outstanding, straight up.
Yeah. No, his first outing for the Orioles, the day after he got traded, he threw a ball that was about 103 miles an hour, but it went 6 feet over the catcher's head and went through the net behind home plate.
Through the net?
Yes. It broke the net.
What about the men and the women and children behind the net?
I didn't see what happened to the ball. I think that the net broke the momentum of the ball enough to where it didn't hurt anybody, but it at least went through.
That is really validating to any time you see a foul ball go to the net and people behind the net like go, ah. Well, now you know what? You should react that way. You should react that way. You never know. Could sneak through there.
Could. Now we've gotten Austin Hayes in that trade, who's been okay. He's batting .263 in his time here. He was batting .263 with the Orioles prior. Only one home run. He's batting better than Brandon Marsh.
Ice cold.
Yeah. Marshy and Stott have not looked good.
Stott's looked bad.
I'm
blaming, no offense to him, but I'm blaming the newborn. I don't think he's getting sleep.
You think so?
100%.
It makes sense.
I think this stuff is underrated. I seriously do.
We look at these athletes and they're just like not subhuman, but superhuman, above anything that pertains to regular people life. But they're still humans. Like, they still have things to do outside of being a professional athlete, and being a newborn's father is a pretty big deal. Takes up a lot of your time when you're not at work, and this is a job for them. And even when you are, you're thinking about other things.
And it's his first kid, and he doesn't have. He's getting fine paychecks, but he doesn't have the paychecks that maybe have the whole like Bryce Harper nanny experience. You know, I'm just saying. I think it's underrated.
No, that's a very valid point. When was his child born? That's my question, because he started to catch fire in mid-May, and I'm wondering if
like beginning of the year.
Oh, but yeah, wasn't it right before training camp?
I think it was.
Not training camp, but spring training.
I do.
But yeah, he has regressed this year when we thought we had a long-term second baseman.
Can I give a quick shout out to not the biggest name on the team?
Yeah.
There are not many shout outs to give, by the way. This might be the only like shout out I have. But we're talking about the trade with Hayes, which has basically pushed Johan Rojas out. Pretty much that was the guy that they moved out, and they've been playing Marsh and Hayes for the most part. Rojas getting less at bats. By the way, tangent, I feel so bad. Christian Pache got traded to the Orioles. I think that he pretty immediately got waived, and he now plays for your Miami Marlins.
Really?
That sucks, dude.
I didn't know that.
What a change of environment. I feel that is just the worst. Anyways, so yeah, you'll see him in this series unless I mean, he's been with the Marlins, so playing center field. Johan Rojas, man, they make this trade and basically say like, Johan, you are the weakest link. You know, you're still on the team, but you're more of like on the bench and ninth inning coming to field or whatever. This guy, I just feel like he has every reason to be a little bit frustrated. Now, I'm not saying that he necessarily has deserved to be the everyday guy. His hitting is sloppy at times, and he still has some things to figure out. But it just feels like every time I see the guy, he's in such a great mood. He's so positive. He's so supportive. He's willing to do the dirty stuff. He hits a grounder. He is busting his ass and beating out a lot of like, he always seems to remain positive and high energy, which they really need from him. That's kind of his role on the team, is to just whatever you do it fast and do it with energy. And just like whatever role we ask, just step up and be there. But it's hard. It's hard. I would imagine, to not be human, to let some of those things affect you and to let frustration creep in. And then the other day, he smacks a ball that I thought was going to be a home run into left field. I think it was late in one of the games. I wish I could pinpoint the one. It was late in one of the games. It felt like a clear pinch hit situation. They'd bring in Weston Wilson. They keep Rojas in because he was actually having a pretty good game. This was post Austin Hayes injury. Smacks one to left field to either tie or take the lead in the game at that point. But yeah, I just really appreciate Rojas. Has been such a great team player, great positive energy and high vibes during a time where a lot of struggles are happening. So I appreciate that, man. Little shout out to you, Johan Ross.
I can't lie. Being with my work schedule, the entire West Coast road trip, I barely got to watch, other than the game where they played great against Seattle on Sunday and won 6-0. I was just happy I got to see a good game when pretty much the entire rest of they played well against the Dodgers, but neither here nor there.
These teams, and this is not to make excuses because you have to beat these teams. These are potentially the playoff teams you're going to have to beat. But these teams, some of these West Coast teams it's scary how hot they are right now. Like the Diamondbacks, for example, are on absolute fire. And I feel like they probably have been for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe a month now. Seattle, after the Phillies, they swept the hell out of the New York Mets. And then we haven't seen them too recently, but the Fathers too. Like these teams, which is scary because those are the teams that are going to, apart from the Mariners, these are the teams that are going to kind of stand in the way when the playoffs come. But
yeah, the Padres and Diamondbacks are both 8-2 in their last 10. The Dodgers are 7-3. So yeah, the NL West is coming in hot.
San Diego is 8-2, you said, in their last 10.
Yes.
Like 5 of their last 6 wins or something like that were either all walk-offs or tying the game in the 8th, 9th inning. Unbelievable comeback wins. They last I looked, they were tied for first in all of baseball with the most amount of runs in like the 7th and 8th innings. They're just unbelievably clutch, and they're doing it with some injured starters right now that are yet to come back. Same thing for did you see Gallen's injury against the Phils? Classic baseball injury. That's why we can't get no respect. It was like a ground ball up the middle. If Gallen's facing home to his right side, he turns, kind of like makes a half effort to get it, and then immediately just like grabs his side and he leaves the game. Like classic baseball injury, dude. My leg
making us look bad. Going back to our earlier point, Bryson Stott had his son in November, actually, so it was over the winter.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, still, you got a newborn / infant going through the whole season. I would not doubt that is part of the reason he's not playing that well this year. So that's a good pull by you.
I think so, man. Just it's little things like sleep.
Yeah. Taijuan Walker returns tonight. He didn't look good before he left. I'm not expecting him to look good now that he's back, if I'm being completely honest.
Maybe figure some things out.
I hope so.
It felt like initially one of those, we talked about this, one of those like, oh, I'm injured, but maybe like he wasn't actually injured. They just wanted him to go figure some things out. But then he was gone for like a long time. Maybe
and even his rehab starts, I heard them saying on the broadcast that like there's one down in AA, he was getting shelled and could barely reach 92.
Jeez.
The one he had, I think he had one in AAA before he came back up. He looked a little bit better, but you know, I'm not holding out hope based on what he had to show in the beginning half of the season. I don't want to say this, but I feel like they missed Spencer Turnbull.
I'm thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. 100%.
He was damn good for the first month and a half before he got injured. Obviously, Ranger has not been the same, nor has Christopher Sanchez. Sanchez was one of the best pitchers in the NL, up until mid-June. He and Ranger, for that matter, and both have fallen off significantly. It's all been going bad at the same time on both sides. Like pitching has gotten worse, bats have gotten cold, and neither one has been able to pick it up to right the ship.
I'm just looking up Christopher Sanchez innings compared to previous years here.
Oh, I'm sure he's pitching a lot more this year than he has in years prior. There's no doubt about that. The other thing that has happened before or in between the time we last spoke was Tyler Phillips had a complete game shutout, but then also gave up 8 runs in an inning and a third.
Sometimes I kind of predict bad games after a long game like that just because I wonder if fatigue plays a role at all. I don't have the stats to back it up, but sometimes I feel like that can happen. Now, granted, I think Blake Snell the other day pitched a no-hitter, and then his next start he had another no-hitter going into like 7 innings or whatever. But sometimes I do wonder that guy goes deeper than he's ever been before. Next game, maybe he's a little more fatigued.
Yeah, he never pitched a complete game in any level of professional baseball. His first complete game was in the major leagues. And it would make sense for a kid that young to not be quite right 5 days after that.
Christopher Sanchez has 131 innings under his belt. Last year, he had 99.
Yeah. Yeah, he's probably already at a career high, and we have 2 months of baseball left. What?
No, it's just that's like a big difference. That's all.
Yeah.
The significant increase in innings. And I'm looking at Ranger. I know that he's been it's not going to be as drastic, but Ranger's had. I mean, Ranger was on pace to have a ton more because Ranger's been out for a little while now. He's at 119 innings, and last year he did 125, 155 the year prior. So he's obviously gone through a little bit more.
Yeah, but he was probably on pace for 200 plus innings before he got hurt. And yeah, I think he's been out for 2 separate stretches now. I don't know, man. It's not looking as bright as it was a month ago.
To your point, it was a little bit of a giant train wreck because it wasn't just one thing, especially the beginning. Like the bats started hitting the ball, right? But at the beginning of this kind of losing streak, losing spell, whatever you want to call it, the top of the lineup was unwatchable. Schwarber, Turner, and Harper, especially Harper, but honestly, like all 3 of them, Schwarber being the best out of 3. But there was a time there where they were literally doing nothing. I think Harper did like a 0 for 30 or 1 for 31, something like that. I mean, if your number 3 hitter who not only is he going 0 for 30 or whatever it was, it's not just an out that's happening every time. You're expecting that guy to be the reason you're scoring runs, let alone just singles or whatever. Like this guy's supposed to be the one hitting homers and driving in runs. He was really bad, but it was really the top 3 in the lineup there were horrible. So it's good to, and at the same time, the pitching was also horrendous. I don't know if Nola's had a really good, has he even had a decent start post All-Star break?
I can't think of one.
I'm thinking that one guy that we've seen look pretty good is Wheeler, but apart from Wheeler, I'm trying to think, and obviously the Phillips start that you had mentioned just now. But I don't know that we've seen a great Nola start, which is
the only decision. Actually, he's got 2 decisions since the All-Star break, and they're both losses. He's not recorded a win. His last 5 outings, these are all post All-Star break. They've lost every single game. He's gone 5 innings, 4 runs, 6 innings, 1 run. Okay. So that outing that was against the Twins. Okay, not his fault. The game they lost in 12, he went 5 2/3 with 2 runs.
Okay.
And then the last 2 on the road trip, 6 innings, 4 runs against the Dodgers, and 5 innings, 4 runs against the Diamondbacks.
All right. So a little bit of recency bias there. He snuck in a couple of, I would say 2 out of the 5 were good starts there.
Yeah,
but he's not going deep at all.
No.
Which is a major problem.
And normally he's good for at least 6 1/3 plus. Maybe 7, but he hasn't gone more than 6 innings, and he's given up 4 in 3 of those games, 3 of those 5.
And it's not been a case where they're being especially careful with him. His pitch count hasn't been good, and they've started to get to him, which is not good for the bullpen in the long term. Obviously, I don't know. I do like. I'm afraid to say his name wrong. Estevez.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Estevez or Estevez. It sounds like everybody says Estevez.
Estevez.
We haven't gotten to see much of them because they haven't had save situations.
Yeah, not in like those clutch situations necessarily, but from what I have seen, I mean I really liked him all year long in previous years. That's what the Angels his biggest thing was. He always struggled with back-to-back starts. It's actually like insane how bad he was when he pitched back-to-back outings. I think last year, 2 years, it was like a guarantee that he was going to blow the save the second day, but he like stopped doing that this year somehow. But he hasn't had the opportunity to really do it with the Phillies. So. Hated seeing Hoffman let up that home run, kid's first home run ever. I think the Diamondback walk off. My name is Jeff. Just tried to pipe one past him, and kid said, "Why not now?"
All right. Well, I looked it up. Since being a member of the Phillies, he has not given up an earned run. His ERA is, this is Estevez I'm talking about. His ERA has gone from 2.31 to 2.04 in 6 outings. So,
He's good.
oh,
He's
sorry.
good
No earned runs. He has given up a couple of runs, but none of them earned.
Come on, boys. Defense.
That's another thing. Trey Turner at
Turner. Is Turner a bad shortstop, dude? Defensively.
You know, I heard it this morning. Last year, when it came down to total runs, I forget the stat. It was like T-Rot, or it was like runs over whatever. Like basically, it's giving your defensive acumen for the year. He was second to last at shortstop
Really?
in major leagues last year.
Yeah. That I didn't realize he was. I wouldn't have guessed that bad.
Second worst in the NL. I forget what it was, but he was second worst.
Man,
that was last year.
Obviously, the flip side of that is that his offensive numbers are going to be at the very, very top, but it's a real problem when we're. I bet Harper doesn't like it over there at first base. He's having to do some acrobatics, man.
Big time.
Bomer's still hitting doubles. It feels like every game Bomer hits a double. He's chasing down. He was like 2 away from Scott Rowland's Phillies record at third base. I don't think the record is held by Rowland. I think it's just a third base record that he's very close to, which I would love that. That would be really fun.
He got 43 doubles on the year.
43 doubles. I bet you. Do you have his stats up? I think he's hit like 3 doubles in his last 5 games or something like that. He's been killing the ball. He always finds it's crazy. It's like clockwork. That line drive that just like gets to the wall, just like in between the left fielder, center fielder.
He has 4 doubles in his last 5 games.
4 in his last 5 games. That's insane, man.
You could pretty much chalk him up for a double every other game.
Hammer it.
Remember, I might put some money on the game tonight.
The beginning of the year, yeah, the big Bomer bet that I think is good is the total bases plus 1.5 if you can grab it. Multiple avenues, you know. Yeah. But the beginning of the year, we said it all the time with the Phils. It was everyone was contributing. Everyone. It was top of the lineup. And maybe it wasn't everyone every single game, but between 10 different games, you would have a different MVP of the game or player of the game, whatever you want to call it. You'd have like in 10 games, like 8 different player of the games. It'd be a pitcher, it'd be Harper, it'd be a guy in the bottom of the lineup who's setting the table or bringing in runs. It was everyone was
David Dahl.
It was David Dahl, ring the bell, Dahl, which I think, by the way, cleared waivers, and I think they re-signed him to their minor league team. Anyways, really? I believe so. Anyway, which kind of stinks for him in a sense, but yeah, it was everyone contributing, and now it feels like a little Swiss cheese, or at least it was. The bats started to wake up a little bit, but the starting pitching struggling, and then the bottom of the lineup, Stott, Marsh. Oh, geez. Cassie's actually been decent. Bomer's been decent. But yeah, we would love to get back to those winning ways when it's a different guy every night, you know? Yeah. And by the way, we've talked about it in the past. Obviously, Cassie's been doing pretty good right now, but it's a hard watch when Cassie's in a slump and he has that like lazy looking swing to chase the slider. Turner, when he's missing the ball, he's got a pretty ugly miss too. He's up there with Cassie sometimes, man.
Yeah, one hand's already off the bat before he even crosses the plate. Yeah,
that's a pretty tough watch, and I've been seeing a little bit more of those lately. I don't know if it's just like I'm gonna sell out for fastball or whatever here, and then it's just not even close to the plate, but he already committed to it. It's a pretty tough watch too.
He's getting paid a lot of money. I hope he turns it around. I mean, he's still batting .301 on the year, so we can't crucify them.
Oh yeah, no. Of course.
But he was batting 345 at least at one point this season, and that's when they were winning. But again, like we talked about, it's all been going downhill together.
Yeah.
And we'd like to see him go back uphill together.
Well, I think to kind of put a bow on it, I think we're probably all thinking the same thing, where we've put ourselves in a position that even though we're struggling, we still have a little bit of a safety here to work with because we had such a great start to the year. So I think we're all thinking the same thing in the sense of, hey, just figure it out now so that when things really come down to the end here, we're in a better spot. I think that's how we're probably all kind of dealing with this. Figure it out now. Let's go through the slump now. But we're all assuming that going through the slump now means that we'll be in a good spot then, when playoffs start.
Yeah. I mean, they're a half game back of the Dodgers and also the Guardians and Orioles for the best record in baseball. I would be absolutely shocked if they don't get a top 2 seed in the NL. I do not see this slide continuing that far because they're still, I think, like 3 or 4 games up on the Brewers.
I think the Fathers are up there, man. They've been winning a lot of games.
I'm wrong. They're only 2 games up on the Brewers and 3 games up the Diamondbacks and Padres.
Dude, it's getting
close.
They've won so many games in the last month or so. Arizona and San Diego. They were not even close about a month ago. It helps. I guess it helps winning 3 out of 4 to a team you're trying to chase a little bit, huh?
Pretty much, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to really talk about the Phillies anymore. I'm getting depressed.
I think we'll be all right, but I think you're right. Big series against the Marlins, who don't have a whole lot of great pitching, and then Washington. We got to get the bats going, but it would be nice. My goals for these 2 series. Okay, 3 goals. Let's come up with 3 goals I want to see. I want to see a solid Nola start. I want to see him go 7 innings. I would love to see 6 strikeouts, at least. I want to see Marshy have some RBIs, not just hits, but some RBIs, some hits with runners on base. And then I want to see. I was gonna say Estevez have a shot for 2 or 3 saves, but I kind of don't. I want us to be too far ahead for that nonsense. How about 1 comeback win?
Okay.
Like a significant comeback win. Those are my 3 goals. 3 goals. Because this is why I think that can happen, is just because I really think the bullpens for both these teams are really bad because they traded off their best pieces, especially the Marlins. The Washington with Hunter Harvey, I don't know that they did much beyond that, but with the Marlins, they traded off, I think AJ is his first name, Puck. And the guy with that really interesting beard that just looks kind of weird. And then who's the closer that they traded off to? Is it Bender? Trade off to San Diego.
That sounds about right. I was not paying too much attention to the other teams in the league at the trade deadline. Probably not as much as you were.
So the comeback wins because the pens and the arms in the pen aren't good. So let's take advantage of it.
I like it. All right, I'm going to come up with 3 here real quick. 6 games. I want to see 2 homers from Bryce Harper and bat 275. Right. I would like to see either Tyler Phillips or Taijuan Walker have a quality start.
All right.
And I would also like to see JT pick off some people. I feel like it's been a while.
He's going to get his chance probably. The Marlins, I think leadoff guy Edwards is a speedster. He's been getting on base a lot.
So I'd like to see some putouts from JT behind the plate.
I like that a lot. I liked it a lot. And you know what? You might get it tonight because Ty Walker. What's Ty Walker good at? He's good at picking guys off, and I think he's also pretty good at being quick to the plate. So yes. I like that. That's good. That's sneaky. That was a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
I was going to say his batting, but we don't. That's not the reason the Phillies have him. They have him because he's the best defensive catcher in baseball.
Yeah, no, that's fun. That's more fun. I like that. Let's see it. Let's see it.
All right. Well, Dan, I don't know what your schedule looks like next week, but my workload is starting to lighten up. The dog days of summer are here, but football is right around the corner, and that means the light is at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, sir.
I cannot wait to watch all 22 every Monday. Get on with you every Tuesday. We start talking Phillies playoffs. We start talking Eagles.
Dude, you have a lot of positive associations to the Eagles season. I didn't realize how connected it was to like workload getting lighter as well. So I imagine it's a very exciting time, especially for you.
Dude, every time I get to like June, I'm just like, please just get me to football season, because awesome. Just get me to September, and then the light is at the end of the tunnel. But my season is like the Phillies season.
Yeah,
it's like we go from April all the way through October, and then there's not that much of an off season. Back on the wagon again come early March. I was actually thinking about that today. I was like, I love when the Eagles season starts, but my season's more like the Phillies.
Yeah, it's a long grind.
It is
162 games, man. They're allowed to have a little bit of a cold streak. It's a long season. Let's just make sure we warm back up here.
Yep. I'm not worried. I'm not sounding the alarm yet. If they go 2-4 against the National League least, then yeah, I might. Next week we might be sounding a different tune, but I am not pounding the alarm button yet. Not yet. My hand's close. Not yet.
All right. Now they're gonna kick ass this week. Let's go, Phils.
So.
And they're back home, by the way. We didn't even talk about that, and we don't have
big vibes now. 10-game road trip. That's a lot.
West Coast too.
West Coast. Sorry, that's
West Coast. Like playing really good teams and traveling very far, and the time zone is different. There's a lot there. They're playing in the worst baseball stadium in all of baseball, where you can't even see because of the fake weird LED lighting situation in there. Come on, dude.
I'm not talking about the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Diamondbacks.
Chase Field, been there, sucks ass.
Been there. That was a good spin there on like been there, done that. It sounded kind of similar. That was very good. I like that.
You.
Yeah. So again, that's BS and loser mentality to say like to write it all away saying that. But it is a good thing to say, to be like, all right, we're back home. We're back into our own routine here. And they had the day off yesterday to get reacquainted to the Eastern Standard way of things. So yeah,
10 days
Let's get back on track.
And the 3 teams they played are 3 of the better teams in baseball. Unfortunately, the team they lost the most to was the team chasing them.
It's just a tough excuse, right? Because you can, yes, but hey, gonna have to beat them soon, hopefully.
Yep.
You know, so all right.
Dan,
let's wrap it up. There's some baseball to watch.
Yes, there is. Let's we'll wrap this up. We'll get it posted, and we'll stay in touch. Only a month and a half until I get to see you in person for your big party. Looking forward to that. So, all right, Dan, you got any wise words for the people on the way out?
It's just I'm just gonna go something we've all heard before, just because it's good to see him back on the big screen again. Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Go Birds.
Go Birds. I love it. All right, thank you everybody for listening. We will talk to you next time.